it occurred to me this morning that I don't look at the statistics on YouTube really at all, but also that means I'm not using it right in a way. I mean, that doesn't make sense. And one of the things about it is that none of my friends or family are with us, which is fantastic if you think about it. But that's just the situation. So most of my videos, even these basketball things that are, super rapidly get nowadays even 1,500 plus viewers. They are like bubblegum. It's about, for the moment, that's interesting because the game happened last night. So it's like this boom. But none of those are people who subscribe. So because I'm definitely not pursuing fame. I have objectively not pursued fame because I don't want that. And so my behavior is constantly sort of shifting to make sure that I retain a degree of authenticity and so on. But that has led to a situation where now authenticity is cherished. So the circling around has happened. So I've been making long form content for a while, and now people are going, hey, people want more long form content. And I've been making content, without makeup and with just regular. I still haven't even connected the microphone, for example, because my interest was people who share my thinking, people who are interested in the things that I'm putting up will join or not join, and they will participate or not participate. And I have reduced the amount of participation you can have because I just couldn't listen to the drivel. I would say that 80% of the things I make are misunderstood, certainly by people who are Americans living in the United States of America. Often I'll make things that are totally misunderstood by those people and that are very clearly understood by international viewers. That has happened often. And I've seen it in the case of other artists as well. And then the things that they're making that do resonate with, say, certain Americans or lots of Americans or a bubble of Americans or an echo chamber of Americans or whatever, then I'll have a moment where, it's noisy again. None of that interests me. So my name is Karthik Tyagarajan. I came here because my father was invited. He was a great intellect, and many countries wanted him, and he chose the United States in the 50s and 60s. And I was born in India, and I emigrated here a few days after the lunar landing, the first men to walk on the moon, right? 69. And I lived in Idaho at that time, where my father was a professor. And then they were going to open a new university in another state, and they offered my dad the head of the division to start a new university from the ground up that was a state university, so it was going to be stable. And the opportunity seemed fantastic for an intellectual like my father, who liked teaching, who enjoyed sharing information and ideas. He was so energetic to the end of his days, I can say. So he took the opportunity, and the opportunity was in San Antonio, Texas, where UTSA is, the University of Texas at San Antonio. And my father is the first professor emeritus of the University of Texas at San Antonio for his contributions in, giving birth with all of the others there to the science department, right? My father was really into the idea of teaching science to people in San Antonio, Texas, committed to this city his whole life. I offered him opportunities to leave to California. When I was a younger man, I didn't get it. Then I realized, oh, no, he wants to be here. And so I made promises to him, and I keep those promises, which now make me be in San Antonio until this is set up in a certain fashion. So as a result, I started doing things to go back into San Antonio stuff recently, like going to Spurs games and covering the Spurs on the Road Spur, which is my Blue Sky account, the Road Spur. And so a lot of you are now here because of basketball. Because when I'm at games, I like filming. I have done that all the time. I used to use digital cameras, right? When I filmed Steph Curry's first game in the NBA at Oracle Arena in Oakland, which used to be just an incredible experience. I used to love that place. As a Spurs fan, surrounded by yellow and them all screaming and going nuts, and the Spurs beating them, we were, in those days, our big three were rolling people, and then watching that transition. But in those days, I would shoot with a digital camera, and now, of course, we have the phones. I'm shooting this on the phone, right? So I just kept shooting. Why not? I'm pretty good at it. To catch fast things that happen in basketball, you have to have slow twitch, I guess is the way you'd call that. You just got that much motion, but you got to keep it still, so I'll often hold my wrist, So things like that, nature photography, these are all things I've just done. There's 10 years of study of a field nearby here, for example, in San Antonio. So I've just used the internet as we've been giving birth to it as a place to put my thoughts, ideas in various disciplines or interests. Whether it's sports, in the case of the Spurs, or the San Francisco Giants, the baseball team, or it's nature photography, or it's astronomy, or it could be chemistry, biology, etc. But I am not an educator. My parents were excellent educators. I am an artist, and I began as a writer. And so I called myself the first writist back in 1997. Because my interest in art is conceptual in nature, I would say, more than it is visual in nature. But it is obviously visual in nature. If you look around the studio, you could see in 5 minutes the things I'm making are visual in nature. But I would say that my process is threefold for those things, which I consider collage. So there is the source material for the collage, of which, because of the person that I am, the documentarian that I am, my source material is very, very good. So I can work until the end of my days easily with what I have. Then there's glue, which now I learned glue from Wilde, Wagner, Brooklyn people. Then you go before that, Rigo, Noble, mission school people. Then you go before that, Austin, 86, 7, 8, super creative environment, using a lot of that stuff. We used to use cheap Kinko's, tape, wheat paste. There's a lot of things that we used in the late 20th century that were part of corporate swashbuckling, is what we used to call it. That was the term I used in my first novel, anyway. So gluing is the second part of the collage. Doing it so it's clean, there's no evidence. You try to make everything seamless. Wilde's brilliance, that kind of like, it's all one thing. And then the third thing that's made. So I've taken the source material, I've cut it up, I've glued it well, and then the third thing that's made is my statement, my interpretation. And in that, one of the things that the SFAI artists kept telling me is, you're too there, and so I've been over 30 years now walking that back to bring a degree of subtlety and nuance. So maybe the work was reactionary more when I was younger, and now it's shifting. Always it has been with an internationalist's viewpoint. I am an American and have been since 1981, so that's 45 years this year. But I was born in India, and I speak several languages passably, a couple of them pretty well, and I travel a lot. So I've been around the world now 8 times, and I will be going again. And I like to study cultures, naked, without the lens of the West or of India or of any place. And so we are postmodern man. We are post now modern man. And digital man would be what that would be. I don't know how else to say that, but that's what I think. So postmodernism ends on, well, we can say October of 99 is how I defined it. That's in the museums, actually. The places that collect me, that piece is in there. So we can say postmodernism ends October 1999, in my opinion. There was a nothing. was a nothing. That's what I say. The year 2000 was a nothing. All hyped for nothing. And not only that, it wasn't nothing because it was locked down so that Christianity could have its nothing. Then 9/11, then whatever. But all of that is smaller than the digital generation. So I would say postmodernism ends on October. I can't remember the damn date of that statement by the mayor regarding the Sensation show, but that's where it ends. So October 99, then a nothing, and then we're going to say, bang, you know, and then the warriors, so like somewhere in there, it becomes the digital generation. And in that context, I define myself as Homo sapiens digitalis. We are evolved. Sorry. And we're not leaving you behind, but this is a moment since 1995. The woman I interviewed, you can hear that on the First Contact Project. That's recordings of people's first interaction with a computer or with the internet. This was a woman in Japan who said in Japan, we have a new word for that generation. We call them Shinjinrui, meaning new species. So they were calling their children a new species because of their facility with the digital technology. And I said, well, we should have a word for that in English. And I thought, well, Homo sapiens sapiens, Homo sapiens adultu, if you're going backward, you know. Well, then Homo sapiens digitalis. Now here, there's obviously double entendre, triple entendre, you could say. So Homo sapiens digitalis. And I am also the dying member of, there are very few of us who are going to be smaller and smaller, unless now there's a revival of universities saying no internet, we're going to do books again. But what I called pre-internet baccalaureate. So I got my bachelor's degree before the internet existed. The internet existed when I joined grad school. So pre-internet baccalaureate, Homo sapiens digitalis, MT Karthik, the rightist. That is where you are. Sometimes there's basketball, sometimes there's art, sometimes there's politics, sometimes there's news. Not so much anymore. Nature, environment, and it's all just what I'm thinking about.